This is Sachi. She was born in 1979 and she's a menopausal killer whale. Sachi is the matriarch of our pod. She helps with raising the calves and carries crucial knowledge about food and resources that is essential to helping her family survive. Orcas are part of only 5 species that live well past their reproductive years. One of the other 5 are humans. Unfortunately, the human species doesn't seem to value its older women as much as the orca species does. Menopausal women are seen as unbreedable females and therefore not valuable to our patriarchal societies. They're invisible at best and at worst, disposable. This demonization of older independent women is exactly what happened during the witch hysteria that began in Europe during the mid-1400s. Between the years 1500 and 1660, up to 80,000 suspected witches were put to death in Europe. Around 80% of them were women. Following Europe, the New World also had its own witch hysteria, with the most famous being the Salem witch trials. Historian Brian P. Levac reports that the majority of people accused during the witch hunting spasms of early modern Europe were women over 50. Those of middle age are thought to have been the most common victims. Whether it was done consciously or not, the witch trials were a violent enforcement of the patriarchy. They perpetuated myths of women being associated with the devil or doing black magic. Women that were healers or midwives, or if they were old or widowed or never married, or if they didn't attend church, or if they owned a lot of land, or if they socialized a little bit too much with other women, were all at risk of being accused of witchcraft. The witch hunts were a tool that was used to limit women's economic opportunities and also their contribution to civic discourse. When a woman thinks alone, she thinks evil, reads the Malleus Maleficarum. The consequences of being dubbed a witch were dire. You could be adjudicated in a sham trial and then put to death via burning, stoning, or hanging. Women, and especially older ones, are still branded as witches today when their communities are under threat or sense challenges to traditional power arrangements. And it's also important to point out that colonizers brought these European-born fears to Africa and the Americas during the 1600s and 1700s. But magic wasn't always feared and demonized. In its most simplified definition, magic is the power of influencing events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Every culture has its own rich history of myths, practices, and interpretations of magic. Now, as much as I would love to be able to just snap my fingers and conjure up a New York Times bestseller or a fashion collection, or just be better at editing my videos, here in the Muggle world, you need to learn and practice on your skills in order to improve. And there is no better way to do that than with today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity. The course Going Viral, Write Film, and Make Content People Share by Matt Bellassai is a must-watch for aspiring and established content creators that want to make better videos that reach more people. There were a lot of useful tips that I'm going to be using in my future videos. An interesting thing that I learned was that shareable content requires both originality and relatability, and the course uses creative challenges to help you develop both of those. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes, so you stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. I'm the type of person that likes to do a little bit of everything, so I love to learn about a variety of topics through Skillshare. Music is the one that I'm looking forward to exploring next, but whether you are like me and you like a bit of everything, or if you like to hyper-focus on one skill and become an expert, Skillshare offers thousands of classes for every skill level, as well as classes that you can participate in real time with other members. The first 1,000 subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial for Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity today. So for the ancient Greeks, magic, otherwise known as magia or goitia, was a wide-ranging topic which involved spells and evil prayers, known as epodi, curse tablets, katadesmi, enhancing drugs and deadly poisons, pharmaca, amulets, periapta, and powerful love potions known as filtra. And yes, you did observe correctly, I am flexing my Greek accent now. So this mysterious and all-encompassing art of magic was practiced by both female and male specialized magicians. And in case you haven't noticed, I am doing my own interpretation of Hecate, which is the chief goddess presiding over magic and spells. And she is sometimes depicted as triple-formed, hence the 2 mirrors on both my sides that I cannot move, because if I move a little bit, this is what happens. That being said, my favorite of all ancient Greek witches is definitely Pythia. She was the priestess of the temple of Delphi, and she would sit on a stool with smoke rising from under it, and she would channel prophecies from Apollo. Her prophecies were always extremely vague and could be interpreted in any way that you wanted to interpret them, which makes her, in my opinion, the OG troll of all time. I love her. So I'm gonna do a quick reenactment so you can understand what I'm talking about. So, guy walks up to Pythia and he's like, Pythia, am I gonna have a boy or a girl? Because my wife is pregnant. And Pythia would be like, let me think about this for a moment. And she'd go, boy, no, girl. And it was up to the person asking the question to interpret that any way they wanted. So it could be, boy, no, girl. Or it could be, boy, no, girl. I learned that at school and I thought it was really funny. To be alive in ancient Greece during that time and to be Pythia would just be everything. If you're wondering why these candles are not lit up, it's because I like having hair and I don't want to burn it off for a video, so. So I think that most of us can agree that magic in the form of spells and curses doesn't really follow the laws of natural physics and therefore aren't really real. But that doesn't mean that these spells don't have any value or even tangible results. In the book Magic in the Ancient Greek World by Derek Collins, he writes, magic is fundamentally a psychological phenomenon, whether collective or individual. There are many strands to this approach. However, its basic premise is that magical operations satisfy the practitioner's need to accomplish something practical in the face of otherwise insuperable or uncertain events. And other than the psychological benefits, witchcraft has a heavy symbolic meaning. Sofia Quaglia, in an article on Quartz, writes, "The symbol of the witch has endured over centuries as a representation of female empowerment. As the outsider with uncanny power, the witch represents a challenge to patriarchal narratives. The witch's omnipresence in literature, cinema, and pop culture reflects the depth of Western society's obsession. Today, the symbol is taking on new resonance, both spiritually and symbolically, as activists fighting for their gender, politics, sexuality, or environmental health invoke the witch as a statement of strength and empowerment." I cannot miss the opportunity now to bring up a very famous quote from 1992 by American televangelist Pat Robertson, where he described the feminist agenda as a socialist, anti-family political movement that encourages women to leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians. He was this close to getting it and then completely missed the mark. There's also an even better quote, in my opinion, from a Greek politician. And he said that there's a global conspiracy of mayhem Satanists, and these pagan Wicca witches are gonna use their lesbian veganism in order to pillage churches. It's completely unhinged, I love it. So feminism, leftism, queerness, even veganism are sort of seen as this package deal of the witch of the 21st century. And this is a woman that is perceived as a threat by the men with the smallest of small brains, and possibly even other small things, which would kind of explain all the insecurities that they have. But is it really only the smooth-brained bros that have these perceptions? Or does this fear of the witch still exist buried in the unconscious of most people? Let's not forget that these deadly witch hunts did happen hundreds of years ago, but our brains, our anatomy, our DNA has not changed a smidgen since then. Which means that if people were capable back then to believe that a woman was a witch and burn her at the stake for it, then that means that people are still capable of thinking and coming to those conclusions. Let's also keep in mind that it wasn't only men that were hunting women and accusing them of witchcraft, it was also women and young girls that were participating in accusing other women. And that's because, obviously, women oftentimes enforce the patriarchy themselves, and it's either as a form of self-preservation or just brainwashing. Witch is an Italian fantasy comic book series that tells the story of 5 teenage girls that transform into grown witchy fairies, and they use their magical powers to protect the universe. I was obsessed with these comic books when I was a kid. Hylian was the blueprint of my entire childhood personality. I loved Witch, but my first introduction to witches in general in media was through the meme queen and legendary icon, and she wasn't the OG magical girl, but she definitely is the most popular one, Sailor Moon. Obviously, I was very young when I watched the animated series on TV, so I remember nothing about it. But when I look at images of Sailor Moon, it automatically triggers like core memory feelings of joy and safety. So I know that I loved it. I just don't remember it. And then for the rest of you that might have been too young to remember what Sailor Moon was about, it's the magical action adventures of a teenage girl who learns of her destiny as the legendary warrior Sailor Moon, and she bands together with the other Sailor Scouts to defend the Earth and galaxy. And this is not a video about magic if I don't mention Harry Potter, the boy who lived. I'm not gonna get into the plot because you already know it. What's more important here is what's my Hogwarts house? And I am unfortunately a Gryffindor. I have taken the damn test many a times and I'm always like, just please get Slytherin. I'll even settle for Ravenclaw, and I always get Gryffindor. The magical nostalgia train is not yet over because we also have Kiki's Delivery Service. It was adapted from the homonymous book from 1985. If you haven't seen the movie, it follows 13-year-old Kiki who moves to a seaside town with her talking cat, Jiji. She moves to that town to spend a year alone in accordance to her village's tradition for witches in training. It is such a feel-good movie, and it has the most cozy, comfy vibes, and I might have seen it a few times and might have named my cat after Kiki's cat. I definitely haven't named my cat after the model, because a lot of you seem to think that I did that. I'm not done! Does anyone remember Charmed? This was a while back. It was with Rose McGowan when she was really young, and it was about three sisters that were witches and they would fight demons with their witchy powers. The intro for that song is gonna be forever burned into my brain. I am human and I need to be loved. Alright, I think this is my cue to disembark everyone from this nostalgia train. So let's head now to 2016, which kind of feels like a lifetime ago at this point. I had a functioning digestive system back then. And a will to live. I'm kidding, I still have a will to live. Anyways, in 2016, The Love Witch was released, and The Love Witch follows a beautiful young witch determined to find a man to love her. Her pursuits end up a little bit deadly, but the movie is not about murder. It's not about anything really. It's just a visual masterpiece that celebrates femininity through the medium of magic. And I've seen discourse around what the definition of the female gaze is, and I feel like this movie is the female gaze. So what do all these movies and books and TV shows and anime have in common other than magic? It's how they explore the theme of magic. So magic is a medium from which the characters can either empower themselves or help others through fighting demons or the evils of the universe, or through helping old ladies. And even in The Love Witch, where the outcome is a little more gruesome, her magical intentions are always pure, and she is never portrayed as a villain in the film. But there is something else that all of these have in common, which is that they're created by women. Witch was created by Elisabetta Gnonne, Sailor Moon was created by Naoko Takeuchi, Harry Potter by She Who Must Not Be Named, Kiki's Delivery Service was written by Eiko Kadono, Charmed was created by Constance M. Burge, and The Love Witch was created by visual genius Anna Biller. Feminine presenting people seem to universally explore magical themes through a positive lens and using them to empower their characters. And to me, this makes a lot of sense. As a person that identifies as a woman, if I was given magical powers, the first thing at the top of my list to do with those powers would be to give myself a hot girl makeover. I would also probably help my friends or help animals. I would probably create like a delicious gluten-free loaf of bread, which, you know, doesn't exist, as we all know. I would also make Wi-Fi accessible wherever I go. I would just, you know, focus on solving my life's problems. Would I go around tricking and deceiving people? No. Would I go around putting curses on villagers? No. Would I unalive all of my classmates? No. None of us would do that stuff if we had magical powers. It's unrealistic. So now, take a guess and tell me, how do you think that men portray magical concepts in media, like books and movies and TV shows, etc.? Take a guess. You have 3 seconds to figure that one out. So let's look at the evil Disney witches. Almost all the original stories are written by men. Carrie, the wildly popular book that was also adapted into a movie, tells the story of a friendless, bullied high school girl from an abusive religious household who uses her newly discovered telekinetic powers to extract revenge on those who torment her. The book is written by Stephen King, and magic is used as a form of extracting revenge and murder. In the horror film The witch is portrayed as a grotesque-looking creature that feeds off of children and wreaks havoc on a family's life, as well as attracting the oldest daughter into the occult clan. So in this movie, it's debated whether the witch is real or if she's a symbol of toxic patriarchal family structures. Either way, witchcraft is used as a tool to portray whatever the writer views as evil, dark, and twisted, manifested into a female entity. Also written by a man. Just quick side note, me criticizing these books and movies does not mean that I haven't enjoyed watching them. You can criticize something and also like it at the same time, just in case you didn't know. A TV show by a male writer that I recently binge watched and absolutely loved was Brand New Cherry Flavor, and it definitely follows the same trope of male writers viewing witchcraft as dark and dangerous. The story follows a director who seeks revenge by acquiring the services of a witch and cursing the man that betrayed her. So witchcraft again is used as a tool for revenge, for curses, and the witch in the TV show is devious, conniving older woman. And it follows a common theme where messing with magic has negative consequences on the women trying to harness that power. And oftentimes that power is used in order to harm men. It's really fascinating how often we see female empowerment when it's symbolically expressed through witchcraft, being perceived as a threat by the male psyche. And that emerges as not only deranged quotes by televangelists and politicians, but also as folk tales in books and movies that subconsciously view that power as a destructive force. While in stark contrast, that theme is usually explored in a much more positive way in the female psyche. Witchcraft is a female fantasy and a male nightmare. So yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone else has made this observation, probably, because I haven't had an original thought in a while, I guess. But I just wanted to use spooky season as an excuse to talk about all my favorite witches. Anyways, thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. Let me know in the comments if you had 3 magical powers, what would they be? Take a moment to seriously answer this question, okay? I will not accept any half-assed answers. And also, what is your Hogwarts house? Also make sure to like this video, share, subscribe for more videos like this and videos that have nothing to do with this. And I will see you guys soon. Bye. No, the video is not over. The video is not over. Wait. The video is not over. The video is not over until the black cat appears. We cannot have a video about witchcraft without a black cat. No. Here she is. Like parading her. Look at my cat. Look at my cat. Look at my pretty black cat. Come here. No. No. Don't attack me.